Well, good morning, folks. What I was going to talk about before the changes in the economy yesterday was a little different. So I'm modifying my thinking today. But we want to talk about what people's expectations and wants are compared to what is probably sustainable. And these are observations, and we don't know for sure what's going to happen, but we're going to talk about probabilities. People are expecting things, and I'm just going to read something that was mailed to me. People want the economy to grow. They want federal spending to shrink. They want to lower taxes. They want inflation to be corralled, our borders to be secured, and they want to know what's happening. They want things like be for certain. And we want to talk about, are those things realistic? So let's start off with, they want federal spending to shrink. Well, let's take a look. We haven't paid our bills. We've been through this in sessions before. I'm not going to repeat the numbers. But starting in 1946, the federal government did not pay its bills entirely. They had a huge market because we had 15 countries that were bombed out because of the war. But even with all of that market, we spent more money than we took in. And we did that consistently all through the whole thing. There's only one session, and I've said this before, is Bill Clinton's second 4 years in office. That's the only balanced one. So that created debt. And the debt interest today is just, as of the fiscal year ending September 30th, was just $30 billion short of $1 trillion. It will be well over $1 trillion, but by the end of this fiscal year. Now, that is the largest single bill for the federal government. And the second largest is Social Security. And Social Security is also a problem because we haven't kept that up with increasing life expectancies. And so we've got that problem. So we've got those two big things in our face, plus roads and bridges, sewer and water systems all over the country. All of those things have not been funds have been set aside to repair them. Someplace along the line, we're going to have to pay those things. And the only way we can pay for them is what? We're going to pay for them with printing money, which is inflationary. And what else? We're going to sell bonds, which is debt. And debt, of course, is increasing. Now, today, the federal government is probably the strongest government in the world. All other countries have huge financial problems. China has got huge real estate problems, lots of debt, and a lot of people that are unemployed. They have buildings that they have started and have never finished, and people have paid money into them and have got nothing for their money in China. But all of those things have happened. So let's take a look at what is likely to happen. Inflation cannot be controlled. How can we control inflation when we have to pay money or print money to pay our bills? Inflation is likely to be increasing because of the increasing amount of debt that we've got that we have to pay for with money we don't have. The money we don't have is money we're going to sell bonds, and we're going to again print dollars. Now, what happens when we sell bonds? Today, the United States bonds, our interest rates are somewhere in the 3.5%. But as that grows, the risk of those bonds in the eyes of people that are going to be buying them is higher. It's no different than any of us going to the bank, and we've got a good credit system. We've got all the bills paid for and so forth. We're going to get a good interest rate. But if we have a lot of debt and we're behind on payments, guess what? We don't look so good to the bank. If they're either not going to lend to us, or they're probably going to charge us a higher rate. The same thing happens to businesses. Same thing happens to real estate, and the same thing happens to governments. So those kinds of things, to me, indicate that we're not going to stop inflation. I don't think we can. Now, what about growing our economy and have our economy grow? Here's some numbers that we need to pay attention to. We want to grow our economy at 3%. Guess what? 3%, the rule of 72, tells us we'll double our economy in 24 years. All right, today, the federal government, or the United States, I should say, is 4.3% of the world's population, and we use between 15 and 16% of the world's goods and services. Okay, now we're going to double that in 24 years, with the debt that we've got coming up, with the shortage of raw materials, which I want to get into now. Just the economy alone precludes the fact that we can't double it in 24 years. But what else now is a problem? Throughout the whole world, we have a growing water problem. I've said this before. Only 3% of the water in the world is fit for human consumption. Okay, guess what? Only one third of that is available. Where is that 1/3? Well, part of it's in the Ogallala Aquifer. That's the 8 states, starting with Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas. Those are 8 states in the Ogallala Aquifer. What's the other big one? The Colorado River Basin. Now that irrigates about 5.5 million acres of desert, fertile land, but no water. They've even built two man-made lakes as reservoirs for the ups and downs in the use in the irrigation. One of them is Lake Mead. Now, the Lake Mead is down 150 feet. That's where we pump water over the hill into California. We get fruits and vegetables. Okay, this is January. Guess where most of our fruits and vegetables come from now? In that area, the Colorado River Basin. Now, that is drying up. That will be, and we've known for 40, 50 years that could only sustain 60% of the demand that we put on it. Now it's starting to show up. It hasn't hit us very much yet, but within the next 10 years, it's going to gradually increase the cost of our fruits and vegetables, and the water will be running out. What else has happened? Why else are we running out of water? Well, we've got a lot of rivers that come from mountain glaciers and snow. Now, up until the point that we had this increase in global warming, the 1% Celsius or 1.8 degree Fahrenheit, that was enough to start warming the snow melt in the glaciers a little bit. And it started exposing glaciers that were previously covered almost the whole year by the winter snow melt. In other words, we got back to another snow melt before the glaciers were hit. But guess what? Now they're getting ahead a little bit. And their forecasting is that most of them will be gone in 30 years. They were forecasting that we are going to have 2 billion people without water in the world as a result of that. Now, these are all forecasts. They're not my numbers. These numbers that I've read. So all of those things coming together, to me, should make us think about what we think is reasonable. Now, as far as federal spending quitting, we just talked about that. How can we stop federal spending when we have obligations that have to be met to repair things that we've made without setting aside any funding to repair roads or replace bridges? All those things have come to roost, and we don't have money to do it. The other thing is we've developed an attitude in the world that I was born in 1930, and the attitude that we have in terms of our relationships with people has changed dramatically over my lifetime. I remember my mother telling me, Georgie, if you can't say something nice about a person, don't say anything at all. Guess what? We have people criticizing each other and even lying about each other, and we expect to have good relationships. I don't know if I've told this story or not but what was the name of the school that was they're having a prayer meeting, a Catholic school, a Nuncian school, I think it was. There were two children killed, an 8-year and a 10-year-old, and a number of them badly hurt. The one little boy was hurt a little bit, but he was, so then they didn't pay attention to him because they wanted to take care of those that were much more damaged. And so a couple of days later, they get to, I think his name was Werner. I'm not positive of that, but I think his name was Werner. So they had a meeting with a doctor, and they looked at that little hole in his neck. Well, let's take an x-ray. So they did, and they found out that little hole was from a piece of shrapnel that had gone all the way down to the carotid artery. All right? And it was in a very precarious position on that artery. And they asked Werner, what do you want us to do about that? Do you want us to take that out? Werner said, I want that out of my body. I don't want any bad things in my body to remind me of that bad day. But of course, the parents were there, and they had to make the decision. And they thought about it. And guess what? They said, well, he's young. If he's active in sports or anything, that might be enough to activate that thing next to the heart. Let's get it out. So they went to a different part of the medical system, a Minnesota hospital. And they had a surgeon that did nothing but worked on children. And this surgeon always asked the kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they got answers like fireman, policeman, pilot, whatever. And so he asked Werner, what do you want to be when you grow up? Werner thought about that. He thought. He said, I want to be nice. I want to be nice. The doctor was astounded. And he said, I got more education in that few minutes than I got in my whole education being a doctor. That was a huge message to me. And he wrote an article, which I've saved in the Minneapolis Star-Tribune about what he wrote back. And to me, it's very touching. But this is the problem we've got, folks. We're not relating well to each other. And those are huge blocks internationally and nationally. And if we can't solve that problem, guess what? I don't know where the world can go. We have to find ways to be responsible to people. We've lost our perspective on what is important. We're more interested in fun and games, entertainment, than we are in understanding what is important for a democracy to function. A democracy requires people to be active in the government, and we have 40% of our gross domestic product. It's about things we don't need. Are they all bad? No, they're not all bad. But 40% is too much. We're making things that are bigger and better. Right now, today, with economic uncertainties, the biggest selling cars are the largest cars. They're about 80% to 20%, and they're all 80% of those cars are financed. And also, as I just read, that the repossessions on cars are near or at an all-time high in terms of not paying for these things. So those are all signs that we have problems that we have to deal with. And if we don't understand those things, folks, and try to use our lives and our resources in better ways than we are, I think we're not going to meet any of these goals that we're talking about. People are not going to get their wants, and we're probably going to come into a point where we have less and less resources to buy the things that we need. Food will become more expensive. Water will become more scarce. So those are my concerns. Okay, folks, let's take a look at our attitude towards our lifestyle. Let's ask ourselves the question: can society live with prosperity? Let me give you an example. When my family moved from Illinois, near the Chicago area, to Fairville, Minnesota, that was in 1965, August of 65. The Minnesota Vikings, I believe, had come into the football area in 1 year sooner in Minnesota, the Minnesota Vikings. And they had what they called the Purple People Eaters. I can remember one of the names was Alan Page, and there were some others I can think. There was one fellow that was very durable. He didn't miss any games. But those folks were considered to be the best coordinated defensive team in the football area of all the football games, all the football teams. But I don't think they made enough money in a season so that they didn't have to work someplace else to support their families. Now today we're paying. I read an article in a paper about a defensive player that had signed a contract. I don't remember what team. I don't remember his name. But he signed a contract, this I do remember, for 5 years at $30 million a year. And he had the option of signing for 2 more years at $30 million. Now, my understanding is that isn't even the highest level that's out there being paid. But the point is this, that the difference, if any one of our families that I know got $30 million, that'd be enough for a lifetime, any of us. Most people don't even make that much over their whole lifetime. So the problem is we're willing to pay for these things because we enjoy them. Where does the money come from? It comes from advertising. And so we're willing to support these things. And look at the amount of money that's paid out to buy these teams and move these teams. Now we're into the billions of dollars. It's gotten out of control. Our value system supports that kind of activity. And we're forgetting about the fact that we need to build our character. We need to be responsible for what we do. And we're more willing to allow our economy to spend all this money and make all of these huge things that are nice to have. You can't argue that they're all bad, but $40 million is unsustainable, folks. I'll tell you something else. Our concept of what a reasonable house is flawed. When my folks moved from Chicago to a town called Roselle. Roselle is 8 miles west of O'Hare Field. O'Hare Field wasn't there at that point. But we moved out there and we bought a house for $4,500. Now, I bought that house from them in the early 1960s when they retired and I needed a larger house. But guess what? That house was built in 1928 for $12,500. Guess what? It's about 40. They bought that house for about a third of what it cost to build, and the things that we expect to have in the size of our houses has grown dramatically since World War II. The first house I built after 1955 was 1,150 square feet. Now, the house I own today is 2,800 square feet. Guess what? People can live very comfortably in an 800 to 1,000 square foot house. Now, it costs more to heat, costs more to build, you got the materials. To me, I'm wondering if we're going to have enough materials to build houses like our concept of a house is today. Now, look at what we did, a Habitat for Humanity. If we don't build a house in Habitat for Humanity, like I just talked about, we're discriminating. People think these people are entitled to the same house that the rest of the people want. People are building houses far larger than we need, and without any thought to where's the heating coming from? Where's the water coming from? Where are the materials coming from to build these houses? Half of our lumber right now comes from Canada. And if the tariffs we have on Canada are holding up, I've heard that Canada has left the trading partner with the United States, and they've made relations with some country, Japan or someplace else. They think they've dropped their trading relationships because of the tariffs with the United States. So those kinds of things are happening. I'm rambling, I know, but the point is we're losing our ability to think logically and be responsible. People are buying things with their discretionary income. When I was in financial services, I saw a lot of people buying expensive things. They had enough income to live within their income and be in good shape for retirement. But they chose to buy the nice things, which are nice to have, and giving up the security that they could be building for their own retirement. So that's enough for me to say today, folks. And I think I hope it makes sense to you. And I think I'd like us to just really stop thinking about what is reasonable. What can we do as individuals to live within our income and also live within a sensible, helpful, kind way with our fellow humans. One more thought I just had. In 1988, Ronald Reagan appointed a judge. I think it was Arthur Kennedy. I don't think he's part of the Kennedy clan, John F. Kennedy. but he was a judge. He appointed him to the Supreme Court, and he retired in 2018. He had a couple of statements. One, he said, whenever you do anything or say anything, know why you're doing it and be able to articulate it to others ostensibly. And when you are talking with somebody that disagrees with you, respect the person that disagrees with you. Good advice. Thank you.